Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Robo Celestial here with a new video for you. Welcome to What If Deku Was a Dragon Slayer. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. The resulting release of magic power can be many times that of the original attacks. This is difficult even for experienced wizards to master. Both boys knew that the final attack they pulled off was different from other attacks they had performed. However, they could not have imagined that what they did was so exceptional. Both boys shared a knowing smile. You did well out there, but it was against the law for you two to attack Stain without having a hero license. But don't worry about that. I talked to the police chief, and he is not going to press charges against you for that. They are going to say that Endeavor, who was in the area by the way, was responsible for the capture. The burns and bruises will support that story, but this means you will not receive any of the credit. And I and your classmate's supervisor, Manuel, will be punished for being negligent in our duties. I am sorry we caused you so much trouble, Master. Marikov smiled at the boys. Please, compared to Natsu and Laxus, you two are practically tame. Anyway, the law notwithstanding, I am proud of what you two did out there. You stop a villain from hurting innocent people. That is a win in my book. No matter what the police say. The boys were overjoyed at the praise of the tiny old man. However, your friend is a different story. He put his life and yours in danger in order to seek revenge. I and Manuel will discipline him when he awakens. Marikov turned to leave the room. As for you two, get some rest. Wendy may have healed your wounds, but you two still used a lot of magic in that unison raid. You two should be back to full strength by tomorrow. That way we can get back to training. There are still several days left in your internship. After all, with that comment, the old master left the room. Midoriya and Kaminari settled onto their hospital beds to rest as Marikov ordered. Little did the UA students know that their whole world was about to change forever. After the internships ended, the UA students returned to face their finals. While the tests were hard and long, nothing much changed from canon. The only change is that Kaminari managed to win his practical, so he was not placed in the remedial group. His partner Ashido, however, did not do enough to impress, so she did end up in the remedial group. While the young heroes focused on passing their finals, something strange was going on in the lair of All For One. The dark wizard Zareth entered the warehouse that All For One called home. Usually the large man would be seated in front of his computer monitor. He would be watching the news or the camera feed from the bar base of Tamura Shigaraki. But today, the dark-suited man was nowhere to be found. The room was empty, except for the monitor that read audio only. All For One, Zareth. It is good to see you, my ally. An ally am I. Apparently being an ally does not entitle me to know your plans. Forgive me, I felt that moving my location was important at this point. Soon, my plans will reach a critical stage. This was just a necessary end to that. I see. Would you mind telling me what that goal is? I might be able to expedite it. I am sure you could, but I must do this with my people only. If we are discovered, I do not want you pulled into it. That is very considerate of you. Zareth thought for a moment before he replied to the Dark Lord. Very well. I will see after my own plans. I wish you good luck. The screen turned off. Zareth turned and walked out of the dimly lit room. When he emerged onto the street, he paused for a moment. The man had an uncharacteristic look of worry on his face. The man spoke in a worried tone. That was All For One's voice on the speakers. However, the patterns of his speech did not match. I fear something is amiss here. Zareth would not speak these words, but he sensed that something foul happened in that warehouse. Zareth was an old soul. He had spent thousands of years cursed with a power that brought death to all living things near him. Since coming to this world, he had been cleansed of that curse, but its effects on his soul had remained. The short man could sense the presence of death better than most wizards, probably from being a bringer of it for so long. He was sure that someone had died in that warehouse. Zareth figured he better call forth his allies. He had a bad feeling that his greatest fear had come to pass. The 1A students decided to celebrate surviving finals by going on a class shopping trip. The outing had two purposes. Firstly, it would allow the group to spend time together outside of class. Second, the trip was to gather the supplies they were going to need for their summer training camp. Urza had told the young heroes about the training camp before finals. He only informed the class that the teachers planned to include every student after the completion of the tests. The red-haired woman had said this was a logical deception to get the students to perform their best. This explanation had upset a certain bespectacled teen, while the others were just glad that everyone was going to the camp together. On the day of the shopping trip, the members of Class 1A met at the mall. They were recognized by many of the other shoppers from the sports festival. The UA students had been through so much since then that they were surprised that people still remembered it. The students then started to talk about what items they needed for the training camp. Kirishima announced a plan. Hey guys, since we all need different things, how about we split up and meet back at 3? The others responded that this was a good idea, so everyone went their own way. This left Izuku and Wendy by themselves. I thought this was supposed to be a class shopping trip, so did I, but it looks like we are alone now. Wendy was a little embarrassed. She had not been alone with Izuku since she had revealed her feelings back in the hospital, but now here they were. The two of them were by themselves in a mall on a nice afternoon, just like two ordinary young people on a date. The thought of the word date suddenly made Wendy's face break out in a red glow. This was one of the reasons she had not been alone with Izuku since the hospital. She did not know where they stood. The two had not really discussed it. Wendy, are you okay? The sound of the greenette's voice broke her out of her mental freakout. I am fine, Izuku. Okay. It is just you got red all of a sudden. I was worried that maybe you were too hot. No, I just got a little lost in my head. Izuku reached over and wrapped his fingers gently around Wendy's hand. This made the small girl's face even redder. Okay then, well, I have several things I need to pick up for the training camp. How about the two of us stick together? Part of Wendy's mind was freaking out, while the other part was giddy with delight. After what seemed like the longest minute in history, Wendy regained her voice and spoke in a happy but unsure tone. I would really like that, Izuku. Awesome. Izuku led Wendy off into the mall, with her hand still in his. Izuku was really enjoying himself. He decided to just have fun today. The green-haired boy knew that there would be little time for fun in the coming days. The two teens were so engrossed that they did not notice they were being followed. The two had stopped to get something to drink when they noticed a familiar scent. The smell reeked of rust and decay. Both teens had only smelled this scent once before. Izuku walked over and put his arm around Wendy. The weary youth spoke into the small girl's ear in a voice so low as to be inaudible. However, to the ears of a dragon slayer, his words were as clear as day. You smell that? Wendy replied in the same low tone. I do. It can only belong to the Shigaraki guy from the USJ attack. What do you think he wants? No way of knowing. What should we do? This is not the place to get in a fight. To many people he can hurt. Plus, we don't have a hero license to let us use our powers. Best plan is to split up. No. That guy is dangerous. I know. Look, he is probably after me. Once we split up, you go get mall security. Both teens agreed. Even though Wendy did not like the idea of leaving the guy she liked alone with Tamura Shigaraki, but Izuku was tough. He would be able to handle Shigaraki for a bit while she got help. Wendy separated from Izuku. The small girl smiled at the fire user and spoke in a happy tone. I have some personal things I need to see about Izuku. I will be back shortly. Okay, hurry back. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered, and with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in description below. Wendy walked off calmly, as if nothing was wrong. She did not want to alert Shigaraki that the two knew that he was there. Knowing how unstable the man was, he would probably start decaying people left and right. That is not something that the two could allow to happen. As Wendy walked away, Izuku walked over to a less crowded area of the mall. Midoriya could tell from the scent that Shigaraki was following him and not Wendy. This is one time Izuku wished he had not been right. He had only met the villain once, but the thought of the palm-faced villain still disturbed him. The area the Dragon Slayer walked into was a rest area of some kind. Not the greatest place to confront the decay user, but it would have to do. At least there were no people in the area. Midoriya turned around and there stood Shigaraki. The skin on the man's face looked even more haggard than the green teen remembered. He also looked like he had lost weight, something the scrawny villain could not afford to do. Well, if it isn't Izuku Midoriya. You're the guy who threw down with the lighting user in the sports festival finales. I am a big fan. Midoriya was not pleased by the villain's innocent act. Knock of the act, Shigaraki. What do you want? You just had to ruin my fun, didn't you, Midoriya? I forgot that you have a nose that would put a dog to shame. Thanks for the compliment. However, I know you did not come here to tell me how great I am. Now what brings you here? Shigaraki told Midoriya about how everyone was talking about the hero killer after his Namus attacked Hasu City. It infuriated the pale man that everyone was obsessed with Stain. Midoriya just listened as the red-eyed villain ranted. The intelligent teen figured the longer the decay user talked, the more time Wendy had to get security here. 10 minutes later, Wendy had informed mall security of the situation. They had called the cops and local heroes to take care of the problem. Well, what do you think, Midoriya? I think you are trapped. Shigaraki. The thin man looked around and saw that he was indeed trapped. The police and heroes had cleared out the area while Shigaraki complained. The white-haired man had been so consumed with his pity party that he didn't notice. You are a slick one, Midoriya, but I will not be captured that easily. One thing I did learn from the USJ was that I always needed an escape route plan. As Shigaraki uttered his last word, a wrap gate opened behind him. Without missing a beat, the scrawny man leapt through the portal and escaped. The cops escorted Midoriya to the nearest station to question him about the incident. The fire team told the police everything that happened, even as the boy recounted the events of the day. He could not make any sense of them. The police thanked Midoriya for the information. They told the worried boy that his testimony would help with their investigation of the League of Villains. An officer then escorted Midoriya out of the station. As Midoriya exited the station, he heard several female voices calling for him. The boy turned around and saw that his mother, Lucy Heartfilia, and Wendy had been waiting for him to come out. Inko was the first to speak. Are you all right, Izuku? I have been so worried. Mom, what are you doing here? Wendy was the one to answer the question. I called her Izuku. I knew someone needed to tell your mother what happened and that you were okay. I thought the news would be better coming from a friendly voice. And it was dear. Thank you for telling me. No problem, Mrs. Midoriya. Yes, thank you, Wendy. I didn't know how I was going to tell Mom about all of this without worrying her. That would be impossible. Izuku, I am your mother. I will always worry about you, but seeing that you have such good friends like Wendy and Kaminari, to watch her back does take a huge weight off my shoulders. Yeah, I do have some amazing friends. Midoriya was touched by his mother's words. The green-eyed youth had to use all of his emotional might to keep from crying. To distract himself, he turned to the last member of the group, Lucy Heartfilia. I didn't mean to ignore you, Master. Why did you come down here? No need to apologize, Izuku. The tall blonde woman then leaned into Izuku's ear and spoke quietly. Wendy was very concerned after your encounter. She called me to vent, so I came down to make sure she was okay, even while speaking so quietly. Wendy overheard Lucy's comments. This made the tiny dragon slayer turn bright red. In her state of embarrassment, the girl blurted out, Don't talk like the Master. You will give him the wrong idea. This is so embarrassing. Inko broke in at this point. Hey Lucy, why don't you help me find a cab so I can take Izuku home? That is a good idea, Mrs. Midoriya. But that the two women walked toward the street, leaving the two teens alone. Izuku walked over to Wendy and took her hands in his. It is okay, Wendy. I already know how you feel. You told me at the hospital. Remember, that is true, but I didn't know what that meant for us now. I didn't really tell you how I felt, did I? No, you didn't. I had no idea if I should ask you or if I should wait for you to tell me. From now on, if you want to know something, just ask me, Wendy. And for the record, I feel the same as you do. In fact, I don't think I would be where I am right now without you. Of course you would. You are smart, a stronger fighter, and your power control is the best in the class. Sometimes I think that I am actually holding you back. Now who is being ridiculous? You have been there in every crisis we have faced. You have healed me and the others, both physically and emotionally. We are lucky to have you with us. Wendy started to sob. Thank you, Izuku. Thank you so much. Izuku wrapped his arm around Wendy's shoulder and started to lead her back toward the street. Now let's go find my mom. She will want to hear about what you told me at the hospital. Wendy's face turned red again. I can't believe I said that out loud. It is no big deal. Meanwhile, Shigaraki was back at the hidden bar talking to All for One. Master, I have been underestimating the heroes. I am going to need to recruit stronger players for my game. It is good to hear you talking like this to Mura. How do you plan to proceed? I plan to use Stain's current fame. We have already been approached by many new recruits since the man's arrest. I will use these new recruits to build a more elite team to combat the heroes. My strategy at the USJ was too narrow. I have to go bigger. Excellent, Tamura. You begin to understand. Here is a reward to celebrate your new understanding. Kurajiri, if you would please. The mist villain used his power and opened a wrap gate about a foot off the ground. A briefcase appeared on the floor of the bar. Tamura opened the case. Inside were 5 glass spheres with a strange black energy inside them. What are these, Master? Something to give your new troops a boost in power. I think you will like the effects. As his master spoke, a twisted smile crept along Tamura's face. The skinny man could not wait to begin his new game. The members of Class 1A gathered outside the campus. All of the students were excited. Several of the more exuberante students were dancing around the courtyard chanting camp, camp, camp. Wendy was standing next to Midoriya with a huge smile on her face. The two dragon slayers had gotten very close since the encounter with Shigaraki. A certain pink-skinned busybody was very curious about the level of affection between the two elemental students, but decided to say nothing. I have to say that I am really looking forward to this training camp. So am I, Izuku. But I know there is not going to be much time for us to relax. After all, Scarlet Sensei and the other teachers will probably push us beyond our limits. She did call this a training camp after all. You have a point, but that is nothing new to us. And just because we have to train hard doesn't mean we can't enjoy ourselves too. True. By the way, where is Kaminari? I haven't seen him this morning. Wendy pointed her finger toward the main entrance of UA. He is over there. He has been talking to Gyro all morning. Midoriya looked where the wind users indicated. Indeed, Kaminari was talking to the purple-haired sound user. Although, to Midoriya's eye it looked like a one-sided conversation. I wonder what is going on there. Not really our business, but I guess we will see. At that moment, 2 buses pulled into the courtyard. Urza Scarlet stepped forward and spoke in her usual firm tone. Students, it is time to board the buses. Suddenly the members of Class 1B appeared and boarded one of the buses. Under the direction of Itsuka Kendo, Minda got a pervy look on his face at the sight of the 1B girls. Midoriya and Wendy got exacerbated looks on their faces. The two would have to keep an eye on their girl-crazed classmate. No telling what kind of trouble Minda would get into at this camp if left to his own devices. Wendy called for Class 1A's attention. Okay guys, let's load up and head out. All of the students loaded the bus in an organized manner. The driver revved up the bus and took off for the camp location. Urza stood at the front of the bus. We will be on the road for a couple of hours. But you should all keep your wits about you. The red-haired teacher turned around and saw that all of her students were engaged in riotous exchanges. It did the teacher's heart good to see that her students were all getting along. The sight brought back old memories. Memories of a life long gone. But the sight of the warm and friendly atmosphere of the bus made her think that some of her old world could be revived. The educator still had her doubts if her students could face the evil that she knew was out in the world. As of late, Urza had a growing concern that an old foe would reappear. Even with these thoughts swimming through her mind, she decided to let her students be. After all, her students would not have much time for relaxation in the days ahead. After a long drive, the bus stopped by the road and Urza told all of her students to get off the bus. Master, why have we stopped her? Suddenly, 2 women dressed in flashy outfits appeared from a black car. The 2 introduced themselves as the Wild Pussycats. All of Class 1A were confused by who these 2 women were. Midoriya fanboyed out at the sight of the 2 heroes. He explained that the 2 women were Mandalay and Pixie Bob. The green teen went on to explain, in an epic rant, that the 2 ladies belonged to a 4-member hero team that specialized in mountain rescues. All of Class 1A never failed to be impressed by their powerful fanboys' reactions. Urza walked over to Midoriya and chopped him on the head. That is enough. We have serious business to attend to. She is right. The hero known as Mandalay then pointed to a mountain in the distance. The camp you're all staying at is there. All of the students commented on how far it was. Mina Ashido spoke up at this point. If the camp is there, then why did we stop her? Asui responded to the pink girl's question in her flat tone. I think we all know the answer to that. She is right. Students, the training camp has already started. Pixie Bob placed her hands on the ground and a tidal wave of dirt engulfed the teens. They were all washed off the cliff into the forest below. Mandalay spoke from the top of the cliff. The cat-eared hero pointed off into the distance. Start walking. It should take all of you about 4 hours to complete the journey. All of the students turned to walk in the given direction. Suddenly, a massive group of creatures emerged from the forest. They began to attack the students. The tiny Minta was the first one to feel the wrath of the monsters. Midoriya slammed his fist into his right hand. Looks like we get to fight. The team then lit his hands on fire and spoke in an energized tone. Are you with me, everyone? Wendy backed up the flame user. He is right, everyone. Pixie Bob is probably the one who created these monsters. Look at them. Wendy pointed to the mouth of one of the creatures. Part of the creature's giant tooth dissolved into dirt. We have to defend ourselves. All of the 1A members shouted in agreement. All of the young heroes unleashed their fury on the monsters. Many of them worked in pairs to clear the way. While it was fun for the students to unleash their full power, it also was hard going. When they would defeat one monster, 2 more seemed to take their place. After many hours, the group finally made their way to the camp. All of them walked into the camp breathing heavily and with their heads lowered. They were all covered in dirt, cuts, and bruises. Pixie Bob responded in an excited tone. Congratulations. You all did much better than expected. We thought it would take you much longer to get through the beast's forest. Kaminari spoke up while trying to catch his breath. You said it would only take us 4 hours to get here. Mandalay replied to the electric teen. Sorry about that. We based that figure on how long it would take us. Minta then broke out in tears and exclaimed, You made us do all of that just to show us that you are better than us. How could you be so cruel? Midoriya's eyes were fixed on a grumpy kid behind the 2 pussycats. The green teen decided to ask a question. Excuse me. I was wondering who that kid is. He was with you guys back on the cliff. Oh. This is my nephew Koda. He lives with us now. Come forward, Koda, and introduce yourself. Midoriya walked up to the small boy and introduced himself. Hi there. My name is Izuku Midoriya. I am a student of the UA Hero course. It is nice to meet you, as Midoriya extended his hand. In a sign of friendship, Koda got an annoyed look on his face and balled his fists. The angry kid tried to punch Midoriya where the sun doesn't shine. However, Midoriya saw the attack coming and caught the boy's punch midair. That was a cheap punch, kid.